As a business owner, if you've ever felt overwhelmed by content creation, branding, or keeping up with marketing trends, you're not alone. But what if AI could streamline your workflow, save you hours of time, and help you grow your business without losing your authentic voice? In this episode, I am sitting down with AI branding and content specialist Abha Malpani Naismith to dive deep into several areas of AI to really help you explode your business, including common content creation mistakes that new people to AI make and how to avoid them, how female solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, and business owners can use tools like ChatGPT to scale their business without sacrificing their authenticity. Also, some misconceptions about AI that could be holding you back from using it effectively, and some practical AI powered strategies to create consistent and engaging content across all the platforms while making it easier for you and more enjoyable. AI is here, it's probably here to stay, as I'm sure you all are aware, but how you use it can make a big difference and can save you a ton of time in your business, especially with those mundane tasks. So let's get started into this episode. Welcome to the E-commerce Made Easy podcast. I'm your host, Carrie Saunders. When we started this business, all I had was a couch, a laptop, and a 9-month-old. My main goal? To help others. Now, with over 20 years in the e-commerce building industry and even more than that in web development, I have seen a lot. I love breaking down the hard tech into easily understandable bits to help others be successful in their online business. Whether you're a seasoned e-commerce veteran or just starting out, you've come to the right place. So sit back, relax, and let's dive into the world of e-commerce together. So welcome back to the show. Today we have a special guest with us, and she is an AI brand and content specialist. So please welcome Abha Malpani Naismith.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. And hopefully I got your name right. If I didn't, you're welcome to correct me.
No, you did it absolutely right. First time winner.
Awesome. So you are an AI brand and specialist using artificial intelligence, which I think is great because a lot of us business owners want to be able to streamline and make our jobs kind of better and easier when we're coming up with our branding and our content and stuff like that. But I know you used to do something else. So what inspired you to transition from a corporate career in PR and digital communications to starting your own business focused on AI and content creation?
So I started playing with AI tools about 3 years ago before ChatGPT came out. And I've always been an early adopter of technology. So I started playing with these tools because honestly, I saw them kind of coming from my job. And obviously back then, nobody knew what this was and how it was going to help. And when I started to understand that they do content really well, I was like, oh my God, I need to try this stuff. I was playing with these tools out of curiosity, but I also genuinely thought, knowing technology, if technology can start doing what I know how to do, I really need to get up to speed with it. So I started using these tools on the side of my full-time job, and I was amazed with them. Pre-ChatGPT, I started playing with the tools and I started launching side hustles just for me to find something to do with the tools. So I played with, I started writing a newsletter. I started creating and publishing children's books on Amazon. And I was just playing with a whole bunch of things. And I was amazed that I could do things so quickly. And then I saw some money trickle in from the books I was publishing on Amazon. And I couldn't believe it. And these books were taking me 20 minutes to make because I was
Wow.
writing them and just quickly designing them in Canva and, uploading them onto Kindle Direct Publishing, illustrating them in Midjourney, and I couldn't believe it. And then I was like, oh my God, if I can do this on the side of a full-time job, spending such little time, what else can I do? So I started getting really curious and I just started playing with things. And I had also signed up for an online course program, Digital Course Academy, at the same time because I was looking to move out of my job anyway, because it's not something I wanted to do full time. And then finally, I came to a stage where everything changed in my work and I lost any flexibility that I had. So I had no time freedom anymore and really long hours. I wasn't seeing my kids. And I was like, there's a reason I signed up to doing an online course, and there's a reason I went into using AI. And what if I could just put it all together and do something. So while I was at my full-time job, I put out a course, a digital course on how you can write, illustrate, design, and publish a children's book using AI in 90 minutes. It was purely an experiment just to see what would happen. And I priced it at $47 and 24 people signed up. I was building an email list before that, again, using AI. I started a newsletter called the Working Mums Club, thinking a lot of moms must feel like me. They want to do different things, but they have a full-time job. And how can they use AI to be more productive? So I was just kind of piecing things together. When I put out the course and I got 24 people buy, I could not believe it. So at $47 into 24, it's just over $1,000. I could not believe I just did that. And that's what gave me the courage to like throw in the towel and give this a full shot. So I've been teaching female founders how to use AI, female founders, solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, how to use AI specifically for their content and branding since January last year. And the reason I chose to do that was because my background is PR and communications. So I'm taking all the knowledge that I have in my PR and communications and showing female founders, solopreneurs, online business owners how they can use tools like ChatGPT, Canva, Grok, Gemini, Copilot to 10x their content creation processes online. So I'm taking my work experience and my enthusiasm for AI and just I've brought them together to present something to the world. And that's what I'm doing.
Wow, that actually kind of just blew my mind. That was so smart of you to see this coming and to see all the AI stuff coming and realize that you were setting a boundary for yourself and your family to make sure that you have the time for you, especially once your job became inflexible. And I feel like that's a lot of reasons why people have their own business, whether they're e-commerce business, course creator, or coach, they have their own business to have that time freedom. And I love how you just really embrace that and just didn't have any fear, it sounds like. I mean, I'm sure there was some fear in there as you're doing it, but like you really just went for it though, still anyway. So I just love hearing that story.
I felt that I had to give it a shot. And because I could sell my first workshop, I think that was like the tipping point for me because I was like, I'm doing this on the sidelines of a full-time job. If I can just generate $1,000 just like that. Obviously, I was building an email list before that. So, because that's what they tell you, right? When you venture into the online world, build an email list. I'm like, I'll build an email list. How do I do that? I don't know. I'll start a newsletter. And that's what I did. And I just kept doing that for 2 years because I knew that I needed to move. And I'm also a writer. So I was very happy to be starting a newsletter, not knowing what I'd do with it. And then the first course, I'm like, it has to fit my email list. And that's where the email list was for moms. And then I just went with it. But yeah, I mean, I think, of course, I have the support of my husband. And it was obviously a very informed decision. We discussed it because it suddenly meant loss of income. One, because we had double income family. So suddenly it meant loss of income. So we did plan it. And I did freelance for 6 months before I did this full time because of the fear, because I needed to know that I could still generate income even though I didn't have a full-time job. So I did freelance for 6 months and then realized that it's worse freelancing than it is to be in a corporate job. So I'm like, I don't want to freelance. And I just went all in January. And it's been ups and downs, I'm not going to lie. But I love what I'm doing and I see the potential and I see the promise. And I do feel like I'm solving a problem for a lot of solopreneurs, especially who are, either rely on outsourcing all their content just to be unhappy and spending too much money, um, or just enabling people to do it themselves. So ups and downs, but I'm really excited about what I can offer. And I feel like I'm told that you need to get past 3 years. If you get past, was it 1,000 days? If you're able to pull through 1,000 days when you're doing your own business, whether it's an online business, e-commerce business, a course, or you're a course creator, if you can pull through 3 years, now you should know better than me because you've been doing this for so many years. But I've been told that if you can stick through 1,000 days, you're good. So we'll
I think
see
that's
what.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good measure. And honestly, that 3 years or that 1,000 days, I feel like sometimes comes back up again, even when you're in business for a long time, like we've been, sometimes there's that rebirth of your business. So you got to get through that again. So when it comes to biggest mistakes that you see entrepreneurs making when it comes to content creation, what are those? How can we help those new to AI or those wanting to dabble maybe a little bit more than they already are? What are some mistakes that you can help us with that help them avoid making those mistakes?
I feel like you should really learn how to train these tools on your business. And that means one of two things. Either you are learning how to give it really good prompts. So you're spending a lot of time on who you are, what you do, writing that out properly and explaining to the tool what you want from it, as if you were telling a person that you've just hired in your business. Because sometimes I feel like we get a bit lazy when we're communicating with these tools and yet still expect amazing outputs. But if you're lazy in putting your inputs, you're just going to get very generic outputs that you're not going to be happy with. So one is really give it time, give it background, give it context, really know what you want to get out of it. Understand that these tools are generative AI tools, which means that they are very good at any form of content, whether it's text, audio, or visual. Text, audio, images, or video. So anything content related, they're very, very good at. So that covers so much of what you need to do for your business, right? Whether it's writing emails or writing proposals or writing your pitch deck, coming up with your messages, writing your website, coming up with an offer, coming up with, so many things it can do. So if you really learn how to prompt, and I do think you should take the time to learn the basics of prompting, because it's going to be a skill that's going to be super valuable in the future. And I feel like a lot of people are not going to bother learning, because if you do very superficial prompts, you still get okay outputs, but you don't realize that the minute you spend some time giving really good prompts, your outputs just change. And the second level, once you kind of got your head around prompting, is you need to build, in ChatGPT, we call them custom GPTs. You have to build your own custom GPTs. Custom GPTs are basically like a mini version of ChatGPT. I'm just giving the example of ChatGPT because that's what most people are using, but Claude has them too. They're called projects, and the other LLMs, large language models, have them too. But using a custom GPT is like training a version of ChatGPT on your business. Now, you can train it on your business in general, or you can train it on a particular task of your business. Like, say you have a podcast, you can train it fully on your podcast. So it will give you ideas for the next podcast. It will give you your show notes. It will give you descriptions. It will give you titles, because it's fully trained on what your podcast is, what's its objective, why you have it, and what is the mission of your podcast. Or you could create a custom GPT for your pitch proposals. Maybe you have to create pitch decks, or maybe you could create one for your Instagram captions, one for your LinkedIn captions, especially if you write them differently. And the beauty of custom GPTs is you have to really just know how to give it instructions. So if you can give it detailed instructions of what you want out of it, you also have the opportunity to upload a knowledge bank. So you can upload a knowledge bank of whatever information you want related to that task, so that it will always adhere to your instructions and to the knowledge bank, rather than just go looking for answers in the wild, wild west of ChatGPT. So prompting and starting to use custom GPTs. If you learn how to use custom GPTs, it's like hiring your own employee to do a certain job for you. You will not use the general ChatGPT for majority of your tasks. Also, we need to understand that tools like ChatGPT should be used for our lowest leverage tasks, for the mundane admin, the work that we don't want to spend time and energy on, so that we have more time to spend on higher order tasks, which involve our brain using, strategy, being original, being more, planning more, so that we don't get into the rut of spending too much time on admin tasks. All the low leverage tasks should be outsourced, because at the end of the day, tools like ChatGPT are just very sophisticated autocomplete models. They're just giving you the next best word. That's all they're doing. So if you can outsource all that work to you. And we also need to realize that it's not going to reduce your to-do list, but it will reduce the time it takes you to do your to-do list. So that's what I think.
I love how you equated, that's something I'm not heard anybody say before. I love how you equated it's like training an employee. You have to give it enough information like you would train an employee. I think that is really key here and kind of brings home um, the fact of how you really need to prompt it well. And we've had a few episodes on our podcast about AI prompting, but nobody's ever brought it up as the fact that it's like we're training an employee. And I think that's a lot more relatable to think about because you're right. Whenever before I figured out how to start prompting it, and generic questions, got generic answers, right? As soon as I started learning how to prompt it, oh my word, the stuff that came back out of it, I was like, wow, is this me like talking to myself? So I think that point right there, I want to make sure everybody listens, really hones in on that it's like you're talking to a potential new hire, a new employee, maybe somebody that's already working with you and you want them to do a new task and you need to detail out to them exactly what you want them to do. I think that's really an excellent point there. Um, so that we're getting the most we can out of ChatGPT and the
Absolutely.
other
And
AIs.
my biggest hack for all these tools are talk to it like a human, like you would a human, because these tools are trained on information created by humans. The tools are made by humans and programmed by humans. And all the data they're working off of is the data that we've created because it's basically all the publicly available information and other information that's available is all in the servers of AI. So it's like somebody once said, it's like AI is a reflection of humanity because literally everything we've produced online is on these tools. So, it's been trained on human behavior by humans for humans. So if you speak to it like a human, or like I said, like an employee who's a human, your outputs will dramatically change.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to bring that home because you're totally right. It is just a reflection of humanity that's already there because we have done all the things to create this and it uses all of our information that it finds out there on the internet. Actually a lot recently we do hosting as well for our clients and we're seeing a lot of these AI bots, scraping sites and getting the information from the sites because they're learning from the information we're putting out there. So making sure you're relating it to as a is a human is also, I think, helps those that might be listening that might be a little bit of afraid of it, because it's just like a small version of ourselves. Really, it's pieces of us humanity out there.
Absolutely. And having said that, because you realize that, you also have to keep in mind it means that it also comes with all our inherent biases.
Mhm.
So it's something to keep in mind when you're using the tool that you need to check everything with a fine-tooth comb. You need to go through everything. You will never get 100% result. If you get 70 to 80%, you should be happy and then spend the 20% of your time fixing it. You'll always have to fix it. It's not a magic. It's not a magic tool. You have to spend time fixing it. So and beware of the biases and make sure that whatever you're creating is free of those.
So then, how do you help business owners maintain a consistent brand across multiple platforms? So let's say, our business, we are on mostly Facebook and LinkedIn, and we also have a blog and a newsletter, and I have a podcast. So how could I use AI to keep my brand consistent, yet still kind of cater and talk to those different audiences that live in those different places?
So I have a signature program called the AI Branding Content Lab. And one thing we do in that program is I help whoever I work with come up with their core messages. And we do this by doing what I call a content playbook. So I give them a whole bunch of prompts that help them come up with who they are, what they do, who's their target audience, what are their offers, what are their products, what are their services, and what do they want to achieve from this? Also, what is their writing style? What kind of tone of voice are they using? And it may be different for LinkedIn, it may be different for Facebook, and it may be different for Instagram. So all that foundational content work, which really comes from my 20 years of experience in communications, because we used to call it the master narrative. We used to create a master narrative for our clients, which was basically this. Because what I find is a lot of business owners, everything's in their head. And when it comes to putting it out on paper, it's not as elaborate or expressive or specific to really what they want to express. And that's when they end up going to copywriters to get what they want to say out in a nice way on paper. But now with tools like ChatGPT, if you have the right prompts and a right system, you can do this pretty easily. So I get them to create a content playbook, and there are prompts for each section. So if you sat for a day, you'd finish the content playbook in a day. And what it does is it makes you deep dive into all the elements of your business, all the content elements of your business, and nail them. So not only what you do, why you do, who you serve, who's your target audience. And target audience, we go into depth, we go into psychographics, demographics, behavioral traits. And then we make a content matrix. So again, using a ChatGPT prompt, in the content playbook, what I get my participants to do is to come up with a content matrix which maps your content messages, your content pillars to the pain points, dreams, desires, fears of your target audience. And then you get all your topics that you want to write about. And then you have the writing style of each platform. And then I get them to use that information that they've created to build custom GPTs that are fully trained on whatever they want to use that content for. So in your case, for example, if you have LinkedIn, Instagram, and maybe your website that you want to keep updating and you want consistency, you would identify your writing style for your website, writing style for LinkedIn, writing style for Instagram based on a prompt that I would give you by uploading samples of your writing and getting ChatGPT to identify the style. And then you would train these GPTs on how to write for those platforms. But when you do that, you need to tell the GPT who you are, what you do, who's your audience, who you and you've already done all of that in the content playbook. So it's a matter of copy pasting and uploading it into the knowledge bank. So that's kind of the process I take them through. And it's a little bit of work. I'm not going to deny that. It's not something that you can do in 1 hour. It is some work and you can keep going back to it. But once it's done, and even if your business evolves, you just go back to that and you can just change it. And you can have a content playbook that features all your offers. You can have a separate section on all your offers. And you can also get ChatGPT to create messaging for your offers that are still aligned with your overall messaging. So now you don't have to think about it so much. You have to edit everything. So I'm not saying, and it's a heavy task in the beginning, the content playbook. But once it's done and you've used that information to train custom GPTs, and what I've done is in my program is I've created a custom GPT to help you write instructions for your custom GPT. So, because the biggest thing you need to know in custom GPTs is how to write instructions, and then what documents to upload in the knowledge bank. And you have all that information from your content playbook. So I just give you a bot that you can use to write your instructions. And then the knowledge bank you've already created with your content playbook. But it is a bit of work, but once it's done, that custom GPT is pretty robust. And it's one way of kind of creating content at scale.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, I completely get how it's going to be a bit of work at first, for sure. But it's like anything that's really valuable in our business. Once we put in the effort for it, it's going to create that return on investment over and over and over again because it's going to save businesses time not having to come up with these things, and they can then reuse, what it's learned to come up with new things really easily and really quickly. And it's like having your business best friend or business, best right hand person that knows everything that's in your brain that can help you brainstorm and get that content out for you because that's kind of how I like to use ChatGPT. it's like my business assistant. It knows me, it knows what, what we do and all the things. And so having that, not feeling alone and having something else. I know we're talking about AI here, not feeling alone and using AI instead, but really when you're in business, sometimes you do feel alone, especially when you're trying to come up with ideas, because not everybody thinks like you do or can complement your thoughts. And I feel like you can train AI to complement your thoughts and help you come up with these content ideas and um, getting things most of the way there and saving yourself like so much time. I know once I trained it to help me write podcast episode outlines, like it spits those out for me in like 2 minutes, and then I can go through it, refine it, and speak to what it gives me, and it saves me so much time. I was spending hours writing podcast outlines by hand in the beginning, so I can totally see how what you teach in your signature program can really just excel and propel people's businesses once they get used to it, and it can make them much more efficient so they can do the hard things that AI can't do for them.
Exactly. And it's funny you mentioned about the business bestie. So the first custom GPT I ever created was a version of myself. And I uploaded my human design, my Myers-Briggs test results. So it kind of identified my personality. So then when I'm working with it kind of behaves a bit like I would behave because of my personality traits. And I call it my clone. And it's not really a clone, but it is kind of a version of me that knows a little bit about my personality and my behavior and also knows about my business. So it becomes like that business brainstorm partner that you're always looking for that just knows you and understands your business. Because yes, our business can be very isolating, and so it's always good. It's not always easy to find someone to bounce stuff off of.
Right. Yeah, it totally isn't. And so then for those listening, and I know some of our audience might feel a little overwhelmed with getting started with AI, and some might be a little bit more comfortable too. But what are some simple AI powered strategies that you'd recommend if they're just starting out, or maybe they've dabbled some, but they want to dig a little deeper? What would you recommend to get started there?
So if you haven't started, just start using the tools. I say you have to pay for it. Just play around to find out. You just have to open the tools and just play with them. You can literally do anything. What I recommend is pick a task you might have in your mind and tell ChatGPT, let's just take the example of ChatGPT. Tell ChatGPT you want to do this task, and then ask ChatGPT to ask you, what does it need to know to help you to do this task? This is like a cheat. And then what ChatGPT will do is it will ask you loads of questions, and you have to take a bit of time to answer those questions. And that's how you're training it on the task you want it to do. And then it will do your task. So you don't really have to learn prompting in this. So that's one quick way you can do it. Now, if you're somebody who's already kind of dabbled with prompting and you want to take it to the next level, write your prompts and then just ask ChatGPT to optimize them. Say, I've written this prompt. This is the task I want to achieve. This is my prompt. Can you make sure this is a good prompt, or can you make this prompt better to achieve my task better? So ChatGPT will refine your prompt and then run the prompt, and you're most likely to get a better result. So these are just some super simple hacks. Other things you can do, for example, is we all now know what ChatGPT emails sound like or ChatGPT writing sounds like, right? I mean, how many times have you read an email or something that's straight out of ChatGPT and rolled your eyes and gone like, I know this is written from ChatGPT, I'm not even going to read it. Well, there are ways to train it on your writing style, and there are also ways to tell it what words not to use. So you know how it uses all these words like delve, skyrocket, navigate, I'm thrilled, all these words that it uses that are so typical, unlock potential. You can just upload all the words you hate. So if you're doing a custom GPT, you would upload these in the knowledge bank. But if you're using the normal chat GPT, you would just upload them at the end of your prompt and just say, never use these words. And just save it somewhere. I have like 300 words or something that I never wanted to use. And it does impact the output. So the output is definitely less ChatGPT-ish. So a few things you can do. You just have to play with them. There's no right or wrong way. There's no user manual. You can attend 5 different trainings and all those trainings will be different. Nothing is right or wrong. You just have to learn what you can and adapt it for yourself, because there's no user manual for these tools and the tools are changing every single day. Nobody can be an expert in them. Don't overwhelm yourself trying to learn everything about the tool. Just use the tool for what you need it for and move on, because you can go down a rabbit hole of trying to figure out everything with the tool, and there's really no need. And again, we're doing it to save time, not to waste time. So
I love your last point there because that's been something I've been trying to focus on the past year is just in time learning. So not learning because I want to do this someday. I'm doing the learning now because I need to know how to do this now. So just in time learning, I think kind of plays along here with the AI. And I love how you came up with that simple strategy of just ask it what it needs to know to get the task done. I mean, that's kind of a no-brainer, but at the same time, like I've never heard of anybody actually suggesting that. I'm like, wow, that's just kind of like, duh, we should be doing that because it can tell us that it's an intelligent um, program and device, So why not ask it if it needs more information or um, whether you've given it enough information. And I know what you mean about what it comes out with for like emails and social media. I remember one time it was helping me with something, and I literally told it, I said, stop being so flowery. I used the word flowery. It understood what I meant. I didn't know if it even knew what that word meant, and it totally corrected itself and it gave me a much better output. But I was like, wow, it was just being so AI. I was like, could you stop being so AI?
it's a thing, because you're speaking to it like a human. There are studies that show that if you tell it things like, stop being lazy, or I know you can do that better, it will give you better results. Even if you tell it something like, I'm going to give you $1,000 to do that task better, it will do it better. It's ridiculous, right? It sounds so ridiculous. But again, it's trained on human behavior. And every single human, if you do a task for free, I'm sure we all have ethics and integrity, we'll do it well. But if someone says, I'm going to pay you $1,000 for that, you are going to do it better. And that it's trained on this, it's trained on this behavior. So if you, that is really the biggest hack. Speak to it like a human. Imagine, and it's a bit weird because it's a computer or it's a machine and it might feel weird to speak to it like a human, but your results will be better. And you'll also see how you speak to it is how it will speak back to you. So if you're short, when you speak to it, it's going to speak back to you in quite a short way because it mimics, right? It mimics you. If you speak to it with bad language, it's probably going to reply to you with bad language. But if you speak to it nicely, it's going to reply to you nicely. So just speak to it like a human and ask it what it wants, and it will change the way you get outputs.
Love that. And I know that I'm always so polite to it. I say please and thank you. And that's great. I don't know why, but I've just naturally done that. And it's very kind and nice and courteous back to me. So it does totally reflect what you give to it. So and let's do so hold on. We're gonna have to cut that one out. So then if somebody listening today wants to start leveraging AI for their business, we've already given them quite a few tips, but they don't quite know where to begin. What's maybe the first type of task maybe they could look at doing? We've already given them tips on how to prompt it if they're just starting out, but like what would be some of those common tasks we might have ChatGPT do to make our time to do that task a lot shorter and more efficient?
Any repetitive task that you might have. So, for example, um, proposals. Maybe you have like a 2-pager proposal that you send out. Maybe you're a trainer and you send out a 2-page proposal for a training that you want to do. You can upload that proposal into ChatGPT and just get it to revise it for a new client or for a new prospect in like a minute rather than take half an hour to do it yourself. So if you try and use it for, I would just look at all your repetitive tasks that you spend unnecessary time on. I'm trying to think of an example. So I would say proposals, anything that you can templatize. You can literally just upload that template into ChatGPT and then just use that template for future tasks. Any repetitive tasks, mundane tasks, formatting, putting data into Excel sheets. So like for me, it's just amazing that you can do. So I collect emails, obviously, because I have an email list that I'm building. And often, of course, I use email service providers like Kit or Beehive or whatever, but sometimes you use platforms and you just get emails, in your DMs or in whatever way, right? So you can literally just list emails. Maybe you have a list of 200 emails. Send it to ChatGPT. Say, can you put this in a CSV file for me? Take the name of the person from the email. If you cannot identify the name, I usually just say there, because then when it comes in emails, it will say hi there rather than hi Cassandra or whatever. And in 1 second, it creates a CSV file for me with a name and email address. And then it takes me a second to upload it to my email service provider. So it's these kind of tasks that otherwise would take me maybe half an hour or an hour to do. And they're mindless tasks. Just outsource that stuff to. So yeah, again, it's not going to take it off your list. It's not going to take the task off your list, but it will take you a lot less time. So it'll give you some time back.
I think that's a great way to get started. And I feel like you really helped us simplify getting started with ChatGPT, as well as open our eyes to some potential of the really big, great task saving things that it can do, especially with building the brand matrix and all the things you talked about that you do in your course. So if somebody listening is interested in finding a little bit more out about you, what would be the best way to find you on the internet?
I have a website, which is just my name, abhamalpani where I've got a whole bunch of free resources that you can access. I have a free Facebook group. I have a podcast. I'm very active on Instagram and LinkedIn specifically. They're all linked on my website. So there's lots to work with for absolutely free that you can check out on my website.
Great. And we will make sure to put all those links in the show notes as well if you're listening and want to make sure you have the links correct. So thank you so much, Abha, for being on our show. I learned so much more about AI, even though I've been dabbling in it for probably like a year and a half now and been extensively, I use it almost every day, and I still even learned so much more today. So I really appreciate our talk today.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us for this week's episode of the E-commerce Made Easy with AI content and branding expert Abha. Wasn't she just so great in helping us relate how we can use AI like we're talking to a human and then we actually get better results out? I just absolutely loved all of her simple but actionable tips on how to use AI more effectively for those tasks that really is super appropriate for AI, because we're just spinning our wheels doing the same mundane tasks over and over again. And AI can really help streamline and make those so much faster so we can do the things that we really enjoy in our business. And if you love this episode, please be sure to share it with a business friend so that we can help them also learn how to use AI more effectively. And as always, you can find our show notes at ecommercemadeeasypodcast.com, and we will see you next week.